this sounds alarmist. I'm really sorry, but this is the most serious pandemic risk that we've seen, not since SARS, but I think since the Spanish flu outbreak in 1919.
Wow. Hi, this is Mike Maloney, and I've got Chris Martenson on the line here. He's been following the coronavirus, and he released a couple of videos lately that have gotten 1 million views in just 24 hours. So, Chris, how are you doing?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing well, and I mean, that's the polite answer, but I'm a little worried right now.
Really? Now, tell us your background in this. You have some expertise you are an expert in this type of subject.
Well, I got my PhD in pathology from Duke University, and that meant I got the first 2 years of medical schooling with all the regular medical school students. Then I went into the lab. So in the lab, I learned a lot about microbiology, sterile protocol. I worked with cell biological cultures under hood. So I do understand a lot about how this works and what it means to operate in a sterile, safe way.
So you've been tracking this outbreak pretty closely. And it looks like this could be a dangerous one. Like with SARS, it was extremely deadly, but it wasn't very contagious, right?
That's right.
So it sort of burned itself out.
Yeah, so SARS was very different in a couple of things. It's being compared a lot here. First, SARS didn't spread that well, like you mentioned. Not quite true. It had a couple of super spreaders, like literally named individuals who were really good at spreading this thing. And everybody else was kind of sort of hesitant spreader, not really that good at it. In this new coronavirus, everybody's a spreader, and some of them might be super spreaders on top of that, but everybody is infectious. Second difference, with SARS, once you had symptoms, you were then infective for other people. That's easy to spot and stop compared to this new one where we don't know yet, 5 days for sure, but it might be as much as 10. We've heard as high as 14. I don't know if that's true, where people are in a non-symptomatic or asymptomatic state and they're infective. So that sets it apart hugely, much harder to stop that.
Yeah, I think it was back probably around 2001, 2002. I used to run a trade show years ago. And it was in Las Vegas, and I competed with the Consumer Electronics Show. And being the host, I had thousands of people flying in from all over the world, about 30,000 people that all wanted to shake my hand. And every single year I came back with some sort of flu. And one year it was so bad that I was in bed for 14 days and I was sick for 21 days. And that is when I understood that the flu can kill. The flu can really be bad. And so this is a brand new form of flu. Tell us about its evolution a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I understand your experience completely. And this is all, people just need to be aware. There are things you can do to prevent this, and we'll get to that in a minute. But this is why we are so concerned, is the genesis of this particular flu strain. It reads like it's right out of a pandemic movie. In fact, if what was that one that just came out last year or so? There was a movie. Do you remember? It was a big movie about it a couple years ago. But this is like literally a movie plotline. So it's a bat virus that went through a snake somehow, and it made the species jump to human. That's bad enough. But then it went worse, and it started going not just from the snake to the human, but from human to human. So now we have a brand new virus that we've never seen before as a species, running and jumping from human to human, and not just once. So if it went from the snake to the human and then to one other person, that's called a one-generation hop. We now have 2, 3, 4 generation hops that have been recorded going from person to person to person. So it's made the full species jump. That's important because it means we have zero herd immunity. Nobody's seen this before. So when that virus jumps, it's always finding a receptive host. There are no fire breaks in the story, meaning it runs into a person who's got natural immunity from a prior related infection, and now that virus stops when it gets there. So that's why it's such a concern here.
So you're thinking that this could be the black swan when it comes to the world economic situation, right?
Very much. So look what just happened in the last 24 hours, 48 hours. Beijing went to a level 1 emergency. Beijing, that's a monster city, bigger than anything any Western country is aware of in terms of city size. Level 1 means no transport, ground transport in or out of the city. Shanghai just went into a complete lockdown. They are stopping all non-essential businesses until I believe February 7th at this point in time. So we've got basically a full week. Imagine going to New York City, no Starbucks, no UPS stores, no restaurants. All of that's shut down. The economic impact of that is enormous, and we're just getting started in that story. So this is the black swan, I'm convinced now, that just imagine, everything you've been talking to your subscribers and listeners to and about. You have this bloated financial system that required hundreds of billions of overnight money from the Federal Reserve just to keep limping along. And all of a sudden, you just throw a giant chunk of metal into the transmission and say, let's just shut down trade for a week or two. Actually, I think people need to be prepared for a month or two.
Yeah, shut down trade. Factory workers will be sick, so factory output will drop. There's just a whole bunch of factors that this can affect. And the thing is, people, I had some antiviral dust masks that I bought quite a few years ago, and I just keep them on hand. But I went on to Amazon and I bought a P100 mask that removes 99.97% of all the particulate matter out of the air. And it's, a real good face mask with an exhaust valve in it and so on. But the prices on those are starting to zoom on Amazon, and the availability is dropping. You see currently out of stock all over the place. I looked at hand sanitizer on Amazon. Bottle and things that used to go for $2.99 to $4.99 are now $10, $15, $20. And I remember when Fukushima happened, iodine tablets went from like a $1.99 pack to $1,500. And so precious metals fit in this same camp. Precious metals and emergency food supplies. You want to be able to isolate yourself for a month if need be, and not have to go to the store and expose yourself to all of the other people there. Also, at stores, if I don't know what is happening in cities where this is already breaking out, if they're having store shelves empty or anything like that. But if it gets worse in the United States, that will happen. And so you don't want to be the last one in line.
Yeah, our society always seems robust and it's got infinite abundance until you actually hit a supply chain stressor. And we saw that with silver back in 2008 and 2009. Remember, you had those big price drops and a few people who already own silver decided, hey, I want to buy some more. And next thing you know, you had 6-week backlogs of orders. I know you know that intimately because you told me it. But as well,
there was 3 weeks where we couldn't get any silver over at goldsilver.com, and there was 3 days where we couldn't get gold. So there was basically 3 days where we were out of business. There was a week where our only gold product was kilo bars. So if you didn't have $40,000 to invest, we weren't your dealer. And spreads went way up, huge spreads. In fact, on eBay, there was a short period of time where silver eagles were being sold at 3 times the spot price. So what happened, silver had dropped from 21, I think it was, before the crash, and it dropped down to 8. I did see silver eagles for sale for $32 and $36 on eBay during that period of time. So the price of some silver actually went up and exceeded its previous high instead of falling during that market crash. So anyway, so what are you doing to prepare?
I sent out an alert. I've only done 5 of those in 12 years. I only do it. My condition for an alert is, do I have information that's going to cause me to personally take actions? And the answer is yes. On the 23rd of January, I sent out a big alert to everybody. I made it free because it seemed so urgent, not just to my subscribers. And that said, back then I said, hey, you're going to want to get your hands on some N95, P100 masks right away. They're going to sell out very quickly. We're already at the stage there where I was cautioning people, buy only what you need for your family, because the time to prepare as much as you wanted is already gone. We're now into hoarding stage. You got to be respectful of your other people out there. You're going to want to have food, water, all that stuff. But the thing, there's going to be a lot of people are scared about this because, we can't, it's hard to really understand how to avoid a virus. But quick story, cruise ships. A few years ago, they had these horrible norovirus outbreaks, right? The dysentery, they were just like floating, crap vessels. It was awful, right? And they studied it and they said, what do we do about this? And now if you go on a cruise ship, first thing you do when you walk through, they squirt a little hand sanitizer on you. And every time you go in or out of an eating area, they squirt hand sanitizer, and that's it, just hand sanitizer. And they absolutely have, eliminated the norovirus risk. This is completely doable. So one of the things I want to advise people to do is you have to start with the habits of being aware of good hygiene. And it's hard. The average person touches their face 2,000 times a day. It's a hard habit to break, but when you're out in public and you've put your hand on a handrail, you have to imagine that you've just touched nuclear waste, and you're going to go wash your hands before you rub your eye. And these are just hard habits to break, but they're not impossible. And if you can do that and practice good hygiene, you've got a really, really good chance of avoiding this in the first place. So that's part one. And then part two, though, is I want people to be aware that even if you've got great hygiene, there could still be a moment where it's possible in whatever country you live in at this point that we could go the route of China, where if you've seen around the city of Huabei, they've put dump trucks full of rocks and dirt and logs and sofas or whatever they could do. They've blocked all the egresses and ingresses to the entire city. And so the people there, this is a before and after story. After that happened, you had no chance to prepare. Before, what you wanted to do was to have at least a month's worth of food. I would recommend 3. You want to be in a position to help your neighbors as much as possible. You want to be prepared before that happens. So again, if this sounds alarmist, I'm really sorry, but this is the most serious pandemic risk that we've seen, not since SARS, but I think since the Spanish flu outbreak in 1919.
Wow, that's saying something. Okay, I want to thank you very much for joining me, and I want everybody to go to peakprosperity.com and take a look at all of their information there. Thank you very much, Chris. We'll see you next time.
All right, Mike, my pleasure.